and we're working. Work, 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 work. All right, welcome back. I hope you're having a good day. A ficus over a rock. This, I put it together a couple years ago, probably close to 3 years ago. I've got the other two ficus on a rock that I've actually made several videos out of each one of them. I think I made 3 out of the one and 2 out of the other. And I made this one right around the same time. And I had thought for those two that I had made a mistake of making the rock too big. And then this one, I picked a smaller rock, and I actually think I made a bit of a mistake of picking a rock too small. But, you know, we'll just see what happens over time. You know, I can always take it off the rock if I need to, and I should have a decent nabari, but this one does have, and it did even when I first made it or whatever, had quite a bit of a thicker trunk to start with. This was a clean cutting, had no roots on it or anything like that when I first took it. Put it in the pot with the rock, and then I repotted it in this pot. I had it buried in a pot with a rock, and I repotted it in this pot in November. In April, I started the YouTube channel in May. In April, I cut it all the way back with intents on wiring it. And then at that time, it didn't have that great of a hold on the rock or anything. And I wound up pruning it back to almost nothing. And I've let it go since. And I may even prune it back to almost nothing today. I may prune and wire it. It just kind of really depends on what I see when I get in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start pruning, see what I come up with. So that got the top taken off there, moved in for a little bit of a better look. Thing really does, it's got some aerial roots dropping from the top. It does have some wild growth, and just kind of, that one came straight out of the bottom. Under the impression I was going to try to save that, but I don't think so. Maybe even. Sure, you guys might be able to see it, but now's a good time as any to just remind you that a lot of people are sensitive to latex, and this is a latex-based sap that comes off the tree. If you're allergic to any type of latex or anything, I would definitely consider wearing gloves. I haven't had any problems with it yet. So I always just kind of prune away using my fingers. Sometimes even for the defoliation I use my fingers just because I have more dexterity in my fingers. Doesn't take quite as long. I hate the sap, but I can always wash my hands when I'm done. And that's another reason I see a lot of people that use like quote unquote proper bonsai tools. I use these for all of my Ficus Microcarpa. They just bleed so much sap. And there's not really, I don't know, there's no need to make, when you're pruning stuff like this, I mean, I'll use concave cutters when I get back into, you know, some real pruning where you're actually taking off, you know, for taper. But when you're just pruning twigs, these heal up quick enough. The sharpness of the tool really isn't going to matter any. I do spray them off with alcohol if I ever think I might have handled something that had any kind of disease on it or anything like that. Now you probably notice I've been working my way up, and I've been working my way up because this thing has this scar here. It's where I took that cutting, and then it was a longer piece, so I cut that off so that it would, I think at the time when I originally took it, it only had foliage right here, and that was like so that it would have less to support. And it grew this branch and this branch, but I was trying to allow this apex to kind of run and hope that, and I had aerial roots dangling off the apex like way up there, but I was in hope that it would heal that scar. It's come around it some, but it hasn't healed it all that well. Whenever I get my Dremel up and running again, I'll try to hit that a little bit. And then the more I've been looking at it, I was thinking I was going to wire this thing up today, but I actually don't think I'm going to. And I got this little spindly branch there, this long and straight thing there. I was thinking I could wire that into the apex there or whatever. But since I'm not going to wire it, I think I'm going to prune that off. And then go ahead and take that long and straight piece off there. And either that'll become the apex or it'll grow another one. And now, since I've decided I'm not going to wire it, I'm going to go ahead and probably cut all this back a little bit further just for some better taper. And just basically let this guy start again. Those other two root over rock I have, I became convinced for so long that I picked too big of a rock. And when I went to go do this one, now at this point I think I picked too small of a rock for it. But either way, I got cut down. Should be a little bit of a better scale now. Not scale, but just a little bit of better bones to start with. And this year, instead of letting it just go for months on end, I mean, I let it go for over a year really with just one prune. I'll go ahead and start clipping it a little more. Try to get some wire on there, probably in mid-spring or something. Alright, I ran out of time earlier, so to come back and finish this up now. Eventually I am going to try to clean the rock up a little bit. I also want to work that wound right there. And just a couple more things before I wrap things up. A scar there. I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not on that smaller screen. But I'm going to go ahead. Cut that back. Was able to find a makeshift bit for my Dremel. Try and see if I can't get some of this out first. Alright, and now alright, that's much better than it was. Keep this tree nice and small. Might be able to turn that into interesting kind of a hollow or a urrow. Been kind of looking at this. Not sure. How much I want to clean this guy up. Just simply because there's a lot of fine roots in there. I don't want to take too many of them out. Parts of this are definitely just that potting soil. I'd like to get that off there. Big pine bark chunk right there. Alright, let's see if we can clean it up a little bit. Really don't usually do that to a tree. It had sawdust all over it. I was trying to get some of that. More or less trying to get the rock here. All right. So I'm not going to get that with the toothbrush so well. This end doesn't have a good, you know, or actually a good hold of the rock. It's not that a hold of it, it's that the rock should be a little bit bigger really for where it is. Hoping maybe with some of these roots coming down over there, they might kind of fill in the gap. So this may end up being the front. Scars there, I do think it'll heal over time, may end up being somewhat of a feature at some point. Once it does roll over, it might look even better than the backside without the scar. And then, I mean, I say the backside, I'd like to actually be able to use this side, but it's not covering the rock well enough. It's got that big aerial root there, a couple smaller ones here. I'm just going to try to leave those alone. One of the reasons why I decided not to wire it, I'd like to leave some of those. These up here, I don't think those will make it through time, but we'll see. I'll let them dangle and, you know, see if they make it or not. But these in here, if they started growing a little in there, I would encourage some more. You can see some fine roots in there. And if they hit that substrate, it really should take off. So we'll see how it goes.